What's up, everybody? It's Miles Turner, the Indiana Pacers. You're listening to the Paceroos Podcast. Be sure to follow at Paceroos on Twitter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Paceroos Podcast, the only Australian NBA podcast with a bias toward the Indiana Pacers, who hung on to beat the Memphis Grizzlies today in a scoreline that we're not really used to seeing from this Pacers team in years past. But this year, 132 to 125 seems to be more of the norm than anything else. We've had a couple of scores in the 120s or 130s over the last week or so. Beat the Magic 111-106. And in the game just after our previous episode, we beat the Wolves 141 to 137. I don't know how many times the Pacers have scored over 140 points, but it's got to be a very, very short list. Alex, I'll start with you. Mixed feelings. You know, we discussed it on the show last week about how we probably wanted to play youth. We probably wanted to embrace the fact that the win total doesn't really matter and get an injection of youth through the draft. And the Pacers have come up against some really poor rebuilding sides, some sides like Minnesota that want to keep their pick. And they just can't lose, can they? They just win.
It's funny, isn't it? The more we want them to lose, the more they win, and then vice versa, isn't it? So that's just how it goes when you're a fan of a sports team, I guess, especially a Pacers fan. But as you mentioned there, those three games are against, Grizzlies are better this year, but the other two teams are just absolutely terrible rebuilding teams. And the Timberwolves almost scored 140 in regulation against us. I mean, that's embarrassing to me. Our home record, I think, is the third worst in the entire NBA, which is crazy to think about because the Pacers have always been dominant at home. But who's been out in the past three games? Miles, right? So he's your defensive player of the year candidate. I think we gave up 1 million points in the paint today versus the Grizzlies. I think, what did Valanciunas have, like 30 and 20
yeah.
something? I mean, he just had a monster night. They had 20-odd offensive rebounds. So, even in games where we're winning, you're seeing the value of guys like Miles and what he does, especially on the defensive end. But then you look at offense and, we've been playing really well lately. Karras had his best game today. Aaron had back-to-back 20-point games for the first time in a while. So, you're seeing some better things offensively, but defensively it's just been, as you guys have seen, just not very good lately.
Yeah, the team's really prioritized offense. They've basically said, well, our best defender's out, so we're just going to not really concern ourselves with defending the rim, and instead we're going to just try and outscore the opponent. We're going to run 88 points in the paint for Memphis today. That's got to be some sort of record against the Pacers or one sort of high total. I haven't seen these numbers before. Memphis had 115 shot attempts today. Usually, late 90s and that sort of stuff is pretty standard, but 115 is absolutely massive. 88 points in the paint, once again, absolutely massive. Justin, have the Pacers just kind of gone, let's just play with a bit of freedom, let's play with offense, prioritize offense, don't worry about defense too much and try and run the other team off the floor?
Yeah, we were chatting before the show, weren't we? And we said the last few games, it's kind of like all the pressure's kind of been lifted from them. The players have obviously heard the fan backlash the last few weeks to month, and I just think they're playing with a lot more freedom. Sometimes that works well. Sometimes the monkey's off your back and you can go out and play and, not have that pressure on you. But, another thing, it's like you mentioned, Adam, the pressure will come at some point. If you're making this playing tournament or the playoffs, pressure will come. This roster has unifiedly, if that's even a word, underperformed this year. It has absolutely been a disaster of a year. I'm not going to go lightly on them. I still say to people, Pacers have a really good roster. Like they do. Alex, you mentioned our home record. We've got the same home record as the Detroit Pistons. I mean, that's just embarrassing. Honestly, I know I go hard sometimes, but Detroit's 9-15 at home, so are the Indiana Pacers. Detroit aren't even fielding an NBA team. Like, they're honestly not. This season's been a disaster. And I know, we're coming off 3 straight wins, so, why is Justin and the Paceroos complaining? It's just lull. A wins just means nothing right now. I don't know if you two agree.
Yeah, it's a really weird time to be a Pacers fan because usually at this time of year, particularly over the last probably 3-4 seasons, we've been fighting for a home playoff series. We've been sort of in there trying to fight for, 3rd, 4th spot, maybe hovering around 5th or 6th. trying to see if we can get a home series, against the likes of Boston, Miami, Philly. This year, I think it feels weird because the play-in tournament exists, and now all of a sudden, if you're 10th, you're a chance, or you get that extra game. So, it's not as if you're 10th and you think we're so far away from the playoffs. Even if you're 11th or 12th, you're knocking on the door of at least the opportunity to play for a chance to play in the playoffs.
They're going to make it now. They're 5 games in front of Toronto for the 11th seed. So whether we like it or not, we've all said we don't really want it to happen. They're going to be in the play-in tournament, at least.
Yeah, and I think, Justin, you're right in saying that it is weird, and I think we've all been fairly vocal on Twitter the last week or so about our desire to sort of see the Pacers prioritise youth over wins, or playing youth over wins. And, I think we don't want to use the T word, but we do want the team to, secure a high draft pick. Let's be honest. We want the team to secure a high draft pick. We want the team to do what they need to do in order to secure a high draft pick. Now, Justin, you mentioned something before the show that I want to touch on, and that is, if you were talking to KP, who we've spoken to on this show before, and 2 years ago we got swept by Boston, a year ago we got swept by Miami, and let's say this year we do win the play-in, and Alex, we get swept again by Brooklyn or Philly. I mean, what good does that do fans like us, for example? You want to grow the game, you want to grow your fan base. What fan in Europe, what fan in Australia, what fan in South America, what fan in Africa is going to look at the NBA playoffs and think, I want to be a Pacers fan, when they see all they're really exposed to is 4 straight losses in May? I mean, Alex, I don't see any advantage to playing the playoffs just to get swept every year.
We might be boosting Brooklyn fans, mate. That might be the key. Adam Silver needs us in there just to boost the Nets ratings. But no, you're right, isn't it? I mean, it's tiring getting swept. We haven't won a series since the Paul George, David West, Roy Hibbert teams. So, it's been first round exits since then. And as you said, if we play the 76ers or Nets, we've said this on the show, haven't we? I mean, we're not winning a single game in that series, are we? No. I can't see us stealing even one there. So, I mean, I know fans want to win, and winning's great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we're Pacers fans at the end of the day. The ultimate goal is to win, and that's what we want. But you also have to understand sometimes you have to take a step backwards to go forwards, right? Yep. So we see franchises do it, and we're not sitting here saying we want the team to fully blow it up and just tank for 5 years. We're not saying that. We're saying that for this season, this is the one season where you can do it, right? Limited fans, as we've mentioned before. So you're not going to lose too many ticket sales. We're still going to make the play-in, as Justin said. So there's that. But, if you're going to get a 10, 11, somewhere around that draft pick, this is the year to do it. So, I'm still holding on hope we can get that. Even if it is late lottery, I still think that can help us in the long run.
Yeah, this league, for teams that don't win the title, this league rewards losing. That's just the way that it's set up. You get a better young player the more that you lose. So we've said that we want to get a better young player on this roster next season. We're going to lose Doug. We're going to potentially lose TJ McConnell. They're going to make double what they make now, or in McConnell's case, probably triple. I think he only makes $3 million a year. He's probably going to make $9 million. He's probably going to make around the mid-level exception. He's arguably one of the best backup point guards in the NBA. And we need youth. We need to get a guy in there because we don't have cap space. So just from a roster construction standpoint, Justin, we've capped out. We've got like $120 million committed next season for, I think, 7 or 8 players, including the starting 5 who are all locked in for this season and next season at least, with TJ Warren expiring next season at a low number, and he's going to command more money. So, Justin, what's the point? What's the point in getting swept every year only to get, the 21st pick in the draft and draft a bust? What's the point?
Yeah, it is tough. There's one thing, I respect about Indiana Pacers. They're always competitive, and I'm getting sick of using that word.
They're a tough out.
Yeah, tough out, which we all hate immensely. But, the one thing I've always respected as a fan, they're competitive. They're always trying to win as many games as possible. I'll respect that as a fan, but, it's getting to the point after a while, they're a small market. So we all know they're not going to get a big free agent signing like your KDs and your James Hardens. But then they're always too competitive to get a good draft pick. So it's like, well, what are they doing? They can't sign a big free agent, which these big markets can. So, they can push for every win because, they'll get a star go to them.
Yeah. But
we're not bottoming out to get the number one pick and the best, prospects in the world. So what are we doing? How are we going to compete? We do these little, I mentioned it the other week, we'll always look for these diamond in the roughs, players that are underutilized in other teams. Bojan Bogdanovic, TJ Warren, Darren Collison, Corey Joseph. These are the type of players we try and get. And yeah, they're good. They'll get you wins, but they're not going to get you far in the playoffs. And that's been proven. That's just been proven. Alex, you mentioned our last playoff series win was with Paul George and Hibbert and David West. Geez, I laughed because I was at them series in person, and I feel like I haven't gone to America in years and years. And to think I was actually at the last time we won a playoff series is absolutely mental. And it has to change. Like I mentioned to you, Adam, I'd love to get KP on again. And, what's your 3-year goal? Every sporting franchise should have a 3 to 5 to, say, 7-year plan. What's Pacers? What has Pacers been since Paul George demanded a trade? It's been, we want to stay competitive, get Oladipo and Sabonis. Well, yeah, now Oladipo's gone. So do you have to reset that plan? What is it now? Because you've just lost the key piece to that whole fiasco trade. And now we're just in no man's land. So, yeah, I don't know. I think the fan base is frustrated. We all know it. Us three are. You see it on Twitter. How many more sweeps and first-round exits can this fan base go through without, resetting?
Yeah, the elephant in the room for me is the fact that the franchise is not hidden behind, but used as a significant reason why they haven't succeeded, that the starting lineup has never really played together. And that was the case with Oladipo teams. That was the case now because Warren's obviously been out. We've never seen the best 5 players, the starting 5, the projected starting 5 for the Pacers all on the floor at the same time.
I'm sorry, Adam. I can't hear that again in the offseason.
But that's what I'm saying. This is what the front office, this is what the coaching staff, this is what the franchise have, put up time and time and time again, as excuses as to why this franchise isn't performing. And, you can like it or not, but it's the reality, and that's the way the franchise will portray it. But my problem with that is that clearly that means that the franchise thinks that with the 5 players starting, that it can put themselves in a position to win a championship. That Turner, Sabonis, Warren, LeVert, and Brogdon together starting with that bench can win a title. And I don't see it. I think we've spoken about the holes in the roster ad nauseum. The lack of a big forward defensive guy to battle against Siakam, Leonard, Giannis, LeBron, everyone at that position, Tatum. The lack of a real true backup center that's not, 20 years old, that is a bit of a grown man and knows how to play the game and has played the game for a long time. The fact that we're playing 2 bigs in the starting lineup, and it's been proven now that I think they are okay together, but they don't excel together, and they're not a point of difference to the point where it's going to win you a championship. More to the point, it's going to lose you one because you can't defend those incredible all-star forwards that are coming your way because Sabonis can't play that level of defense and Turner can't guard those players. So, I think the franchise will continue to project that when healthy, they are in a position to be one of the best teams in the NBA. I no longer believe that that's the case. I think you could have given me that line 12 months ago and I probably would have said, yeah, great, perfect, get them all on the floor. But even the players that we do see, like Justin Holiday's a good all-round player. He's been spot starting for TJ Warren all season now. And I'm not saying that he's significantly worse than TJ Warren, but he's not. I'm not saying he's worse than TJ Warren. He's not significantly worse. He's not 30 wins worse than TJ Warren. And with the record that we have, Alex, we're certainly playing like TJ Warren would just solve all our problems and we'd be a 60-win team and we'd be incredible. Like, that seems to be what this franchise thinks will happen.
The only thing I'll say on that is I thought the same thing a year ago after the bubble. I thought that they would say coming into the offseason, Sabonis was hurt, Lamb missed a bunch of games, Oladipo wasn't 100%, we're gonna run it back. But they didn't. They fired Nate. They tried to trade Miles multiple times, I think, at least. So they said to themselves, you know what? Yeah, we had injuries. We had plays out. We could have made excuses, but Simon, KP, Chad, they said, no, we're going to try to shake things up. Sorry. So, I understand what you're saying, but I fully expect the front office to make a big move in terms of the starting lineup. I can't see a reality where Miles and Sabonis are the starters next year. I don't know. Maybe you guys think differently. I'll get your opinion on that, but I just can't see it. Even with TJ Warren out, it's just not enough of an excuse, as you said, to be losing all of these games, and they know that. And the fact that they fired Nate last offseason and tried to trade Miles, like I said, that indicated to me that injuries weren't going to be an excuse anymore. They wanted to try to find something because they knew this roster, even when healthy, isn't good enough. But I'll get your opinion on that as well. So,
Justin, what do you think? I see them hiding behind that excuse, and I also see Miles being the fall guy. I don't necessarily think that's fair either. And, the wins that we've had against teams that are actively trying to lose over the last week without Miles probably strengthen that case of they'll help the numbers. They'll help the plus minuses. They'll help the offensive numbers in particular, the efficiency numbers, etc. They'll probably ignore the fact that we've given up 11 billion points per game over the past week against those same teams that are trying to lose. But I just see the team hiding behind the fact that we're not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'll get noted in his off-season press conference by KP. But, Alex, what you said is right. And it kind of made me think a minute, they are trying their best. Although I wouldn't agree with the Gordon Hayward sign and trade, they did try and upgrade the roster, like you said, and they didn't really blame it on injuries in the bubble when they could have. So you are 100% right in that, Alex. With, we spoke about the whole Sabonis thing. I'd still be shocked if Sabonis is the one who's traded. I think that just pushes such a strong message from your franchise when you're trading what most people around the league and world would say Sabonis is our best player. If you trade him, that makes a big news. That's a big news trade. So I don't want Turner traded. As I've always said, longest tenured player. I love players who are drafted by the team and we stick with them, apart from Aaron Holiday. And yeah, I think a move has to happen. The starting lineup's not going to cut it. We all know that. The Sabonis and Turner thing, geez, we've talked about this experiment for years. They've never gotten a court together, but push comes to shove now. It's not working. It's catch-22, what you give up with Sabonis with rebounding or Turner with your defense if you get traded away. So, look, if this team goes into opening night with a full Bankers Life Fieldhouse packed stadium next year with the same starting five and just a few different pieces on the bench, it's going to be much the same next year, I think.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think I'll be absolutely floored if this team does not make a trade this offseason, regardless of where we pick in the draft. I don't know who it'll be and I don't know who it'll be for, but we've discussed that clearly Domas has the greatest trade value, with probably Brogdon coming in second. Warren, being injured this season, Karras only just coming to the team. They're not going to trade Karras. Let's be frank. He was brilliant today against Memphis. But
he's the one untouchable on the team.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, I think his contract makes him untouchable as well. I mean, and that's the other thing about the Pacers. They don't have a $30 million contract to trade for another $30 million contract. They have 16, 17, 18, $19 million guys, which with, I think Brogdon makes 21 at the highest on the team. So you're not going to trade for a superstar with unless you trade two of your starters for a superstar. And then you're essentially, trading to get a superstar without really anyone to fill the other hole that you've now got. So it's in a really interesting position, this roster. I guess, Alex, question for you without notice. What player on the starting lineup, gun to your head, would you trade this offseason?
You're throwing me a tough one here, huh? Jeez. I think I agree with you in the sense that it's tough to trade. I mean, look, you're going to get the best value for Sabonis, right? He's a two-time All-Star. He's 24 years old, I think. His value is never going to be higher. So if I had to pick who I'm going to get the best return for, it's got to be Sabonis. But if I'm the Pacers general manager, I'm not trading a two-time All-Star who hasn't requested a trade. So if I'm the general manager, I'm trading Miles this offseason. And I'm probably, you're either going one of two ways, right? You either trade for a point guard playmaker, so you can move Brogdon to the 2 and then play small ball, which they tried in the bubble with Warren at the 4, or you trade Miles for a power forward and then move Domas to the center. So if I had to say those are the two options that the Pacers have, I just agree with Justin in the sense that whether or not I agree with it, they're not going to trade Sabonis unless he requests a trade or gives them some indication that he wants out, which I don't see him doing. So that's just the way I see it.
I want to hone in on one thing you said there, which was, do you trade for a point guard so you move Brogdon to the 2? And it's a really interesting point. I've seen a couple of people raise it on Twitter. Justin, interested in your view, is Malcolm Brogdon's best position point guard or shooting guard?
Oh, it's tough. You'd probably say shooting guard. I think he's probably better off the ball when he spots up for 3 and then drives and kicks. Point guard is he's a good point guard as well, but he said he feels most natural at the point. I think he just kind of wants to run the team and be that leader. But, I know we're going to probably touch on it a bit later, but, we ran that poll on the Paceroos of who's the most, successful player this season, and TJ McConnell's, people said he should be our third string point guard. And now all the Pacer fan base is saying it is our most successful player. Like
the MVP of the team this season.
Which there's two ways to think about it. I've got a few text messages from friends as well going, God, TJ McConnell is your best player. Obviously, they know Sabonis and Levert are better, but it's more saying, it shows how good TJ McConnell's done, but in another sense, that's so embarrassing. Name me other one team in the league where your backup point guard / third string point guard is the best player.
Look, it's a great point, and it's an indictment on the starting lineup and how poorly the starting lineup has played, and how poorly the team.
He's got us the most wins out of any single player.
Yes.
We wouldn't have won the game against Minnesota the other day without him. There's countless games we've all seen where you go, oh, God, without TJ McConnell, we lose that game. I think it's such a, tick for him. If he's listening, good on you. But it's embarrassing in a sense, isn't it, that people wanted Aaron Holiday playing over TJ McConnell. Now we're saying TJ McConnell's the season MVP. That's when you've got issues with your lineup.
He's probably the best backup point guard in the league right now. And I say that with no hesitation whatsoever. And Alex, as I say, we're going to lose him this season unless we pay him probably the mid-level, probably $9 million a year, which I think the front office would be loath to pay because they've got so much money wrapped up in the starting lineup. But I mean, if we didn't have TJ McConnell, then we'd be looking at a top 10 pick, would we not?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it was funny because Chris Deneri on the broadcast today was he wasn't joking. He said that the go-to scorer in the fourth quarter is being TJ McConnell. And he wasn't lying whatsoever. I mean, you look at these games, McConnell hits the dagger against the Wolves. And there's countless times. Even today, he hit, I think, 3 field goals in a row to start the fourth quarter, which seems to be every single game now. So, we jokingly say these things, but it's true, isn't it? Like, when TJ McConnell's your go-to guy in the fourth quarter, you're having issues, right?
So no one plays harder. Out of the 10
yeah, that is true. Yeah.
No one plays harder.
And I would even argue that 3 of the most impressive Pacers to me have been the bench player, or 4 actually. Goga this past month, and then I'd say McDermott, who's having a career year, and then Sumner as well.
Paid this summer.
Paid.
Then we're all confirming our starting lineup has issues. If we've all said our bench players have been okay, and our bench players are going to be the issue. Alex, you brought up a really good point quickly, and that was, came to mind when you said it was they're not going to trade their All-Star. And, who are our last 3 All-Stars? Paul George, Oladipo, Sabonis. Paul George requests a trade. Oladipo requests a trade, basically. And then, it's suicidal to trade away Sabonis. But how often do fans go, we can't keep an All-Star, this Pacers small market, or we always let our All-Stars go, and now if we trade them, it's going to be, not good PR for KP. But, we'll see how we go. I want to get your quick opinion on something, turning it left field a bit. Don't know where we're going with the episode, but yes or no from both of you, will Oladipo be a Miami Heat next year?
Yes.
I'm going to go and say he signs a 1-year deal, a little bit cheaper, trying to prove himself again.
With Miami?
Yeah. That's what I mean. Yep. What about you?
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think he'll want to stay. He'll be pushing to stay. But Pat Riley, as we all know, he's ruthless. He won't care about how it'll look on Oladipo's side. He'll want to win. And if he feels Oladipo's not the right player to re-sign, man, I think there's a chance he could go elsewhere again.
5 teams, would it be?
There's a real chance it'll come down to how many years he's happy to sign for, I think. Because I think Miami won't want him for any more than, say, 2 seasons. They won't want to lock him up at the number that he wants for any more than 2 seasons. Whereas I think he's been linked to New York a lot. Maybe New York offers him 4 years at, maybe a slightly smaller number, but a bigger number overall. I don't know. But I definitely see his priority to be staying in Miami. And you could be right, Alex. He could bet on himself and, get that 1 year, $15 million sort of deal or $20 million deal, the JJ Redick sort of deal where he gets paid a lot for 1 year and then tries to get money elsewhere. But there's going to be plenty of money floating around this offseason. I think there's quite a few teams with cap space. So,
I think he's probably one of the best free agents available. Which makes his job easier. But, man, if I was him, Alex, I wouldn't be betting on myself. Good on him if he does. I respect it. But, geez, you're getting risky now because he's just got injured again, unfortunately, which is sad to see. But another injury, I'll tell you what, you won't be even getting that $15 million over 1 year.
20.
That's true.
28 next year, I think he is. So if he gets a 4-year deal coming up, then he'll be in his early 30s by the time it's done. Might be his last big contract. So maybe, he's made probably $100 million in his career. He probably wants to double that and, sign a 4-year deal for about, 80, 90 mil. I know Pacers offered him 4 years for 100, but it seems pretty clear he's not going to get that sort of money.
One last parting shot at Oladipo. I think he thinks he is a lot better than he thinks he is. Like, he's had one good year. We all know that. In his career, one really good year, one All-Star year. And, I remember Michael Grady saying it was like he's in the pool room with LeBron now. He's in that echelon of NBA players. No, you're not. You're really, really not. You're not in the top 30, 40 players in the league.
Yeah, it's the fall has been drastic and it's been mostly down to injury. And we wish him all the best. I've still got an Oladipo jersey in my cupboard. Like, I still want to see the guy do well, but at the same time, he's got to be a bit more efficient and take a few less shots because at the moment he's shooting a very, very low percentage right now.
I just think, unfortunately, I don't know anything. I just get the feeling that from what I've heard, he's a really nice guy, but I just feel like he's around the wrong people. The people in his camp are giving him the wrong advice with how to handle the media and his career. And that affects some players. I feel like Oladipo, he's a great singer. He seems like a lovely, lovely man, but I just feel like he's around the wrong people who's giving him the wrong advice.
Yeah, all the reports seem to point to that, which is sad. But Alex, I want to finish on a positive, on a high. The guy that we got for Victor Oladipo, Caris LeVert, was fantastic today. I just want to hear from you about Caris's game. You mentioned that, at one stage of the game he was taking over. So let's finish this on a positive. Let's talk about a positive player performance. Let's talk about Caris LeVert today.
Well, I'm be honest, I'm still in disbelief we even got Caris. For 20 games of Oladipo, we got 2.5 years of this guy who I think could be an all-star in the future. So I'm super excited for him. Today he had 34. I think he had like 5 rebounds and 3 blocks as well. So he did a little bit of everything. Obviously, he's not a Oladipo level defender, but what this guy can bring to the Pacers offensively is, I think unbelievable. And he's only going to get better. You know, we've seen a 26-point game, a 28-point game, now a 34-point game from him. So I think the stock is on the rise for Karis LeVert. Get him while you can, because this guy's going to be special, man. And with the right spacing, he's going to be a big-time problem. We've seen today, once he gets into that paint, he's really good at drawing fouls and really good at finishing at the rim. So I'm super happy for Karis. He's a good dude. And he balled out today, so it was great for the Pacers.
Awesome. Good note to finish on. We've been the Paceroos. We will speak to you again next week.